Welcome back to another episode of Talk Dead to Me. I am your host, Johnny Odell. I'm the social media manager for The Walking Dead. How are you guys? This week, we have a Walking Dead legend on the show. It's Michael Satrazemis. He has been the director, cinematographer, DP, co-executive producer of some of your favorite episodes from The Walking Dead and Fear. If you guys need a quick refresher, I don't know why you would because he's such a legend, but here you go. On The Walking Dead, his first episode that he directed was The Grove. I mean, come on, that is a Mount Rushmore episode. We definitely talk about that. Additionally, he's also directed Try, East, Start to Finish, Knots Untie, How It's Gotta Be, Evolution, and Squeeze. On the Fear the Walking Dead side, he's directed Close Your Eyes, I Lose Myself, Here to Help, The Door, and most recently in Dreams, the heavy, emotional episode of Fear that aired just last week. So very exciting to have him here. Anyway, let's stop dilly-dallying around and let's get right to it. This is Michael Satrazemis. You know, I was researching you. There is not a lot about your background pre-career. So what was your upbringing like? Where are you from?
I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, in the mountains. It's kind of a, normal upbringing. I although I was spoiled by the snow and that whole environment. It's really neat. I think when you're a child, you kind of grow up in one way, and when you go back there, you sometimes realize how special a certain place is. I think if there was any film industry in Colorado, which there's not, they really don't seem to be too interested in it, and now they've got lots of weed money. So I don't know if they need any of the.
Yeah, they're like, we're good.
The outside film, yeah, they're like, we got plenty of money. We don't need you guys. So I'd probably live there, like everybody else, who grows up, snowboarding their whole life. You want to learn to surf, and so I did that, and that's kind of what I do with all of my free time, is either go snowboarding or surfing. Went to the University of North Carolina. Was kind of where I cracked into the business. I started there. Worked in a rental house for a summer, welding some lugs on some 4/0 on cable, big piles of cable.
What was your major?
Black head to toe. Well, I didn't finish because I joined the carnival, so not the real carnival, but the film industry. So I got grabbed by a film on the way out. They could afford half of a grip, and they asked me if I wanted to come out, and I did. I went out and gripped for a show and just trying to learn it. I love the cutting of light. I thought that was, that aspect of it, and just a creative environment, being around so many kind of awkward, amazing, talented people, this military exercise that is all orchestrated to perfection to have everyone arrive at the same time and point for the word action so everyone could back away, and you watch a lie become the truth. Like that's, to me, that's still the magic of the whole business, and what has kept me loving what I get to do. And as in every iteration that I've ended up being in, now I'm kind of living beyond my dream, although I had to sit down and make a new one. I think it's very important when you're living your dream and you realize you don't really have a dream to go sit down and try to find a new dream. I had a panic when that first happened, but it's something to kind of keep propelling you. So
for sure.
I started that, got into the camera department, was stolen by a gaffer. I was working on The Last of the Mohicans, and he stole me, and his name's Danny Eccleston, this English man, and he, I don't know why. Still, there's a lot of people that help you throughout the years that you don't know why they do what they do at that time or moment. But when I was done working, he called me over and he said, "Listen, mate, I don't ever want to see you on a film set unless you're in the camera department, period." And he handed me the red manual, even though he was a gaffer. He wasn't in the camera department. And, I'd already been itching a little bit, so it kind of propelled me into the camera department. And then I worked my way through all of it.
Yeah. What was your family saying around that time? Like, were they nervous about you getting into the industry, or were they excited?
Oh, my family?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always divided. I think when you say, like, I'm not going to finish my education, I was going to be an accountant, like it was.
Sure.
It was just what I was doing to get through school, to learn to surf and be a young irresponsible adult. I hadn't had a plan for a career, and just math had always kind of been pretty easy for me, and which translates to a lot of the things we get to do in the business. So mom was like, "Oh no, you're destroying your life," and my dad was like, "Yeah, get out and do it. Great for you." And I promised my mother that I would go back to school at some point if I wanted to, but I would probably go in for psychology, and get a degree. That was actually starting to be interesting to me, and and it hasn't happened yet. Although
okay.
You feel a little bit like a psychologist on a film set,
Sure.
Navigating a lot of people and personalities, but I think it's a beautiful environment, and once you get the bug in this business, I don't think there's anything that really can satisfy it other than staying in the business and maybe reinventing yourself. I've been lucky enough to travel through a lot of positions.
Your IMDb is stacked. I mean, it is just like from My Cousin Vinny through Mario Brothers, Vampire Diaries. I mean, it seems like you've kind of done it all.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I mean, I think when you're in a crew position, you're not choosing your stories. You're just like, you got a job, and and if there were people that you like, and I was lucky even in Super Mario Brothers, I was working with Dean Semler. Had just won the Oscar for Dances with Wolves. So although it didn't turn out to be the greatest of movies, I was working with a genius. And getting to steal what he knew, and and what he knows. I think a lot of what I am now is just a culmination of the things that I stole from many different people. I mean, getting to full focus for Robert Altman and watching his technique you get so encompassed as a family member. You ate meals with him all the time. You'd have dinner, 5 nights a week, and pull you from the table and tell you things where you're like, why are you talking to me? Oh my God, what is he? Who's he think I am? But you realize that's what makes you. And once you get enough of those elements, it starts to become its own unique kind of, not style, but, attention to storytelling. You have your own pattern of the way you like to tell stories, and the things you like to, to pay attention to. I think it teaches you very simple lessons. I mean, I let the script guide me. The script tells me what to do. The story tells me what to do. And then how I deliver that information, is I just base it off of how we want to tell the story, and then pacing and all. There's a lot of things. I think once you start getting into the directing position, it's a craft that has 1,000 fine points that you'll never be able to master. And I think that's what I love about it, is that I have 100 things that I wish I would have done better at the end of everything that I do, but hopefully they get smaller in scale. And
you've said before. Sorry,
yeah, try to.
Yeah, you've said before that sometimes you kind of experience a form of loss after a shoot sometimes, because there's parts of things that you might have left on the table or something. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think the shocking part, or the most shocking part for me in directing, it's funny that you bring that up. The thing that hit me the most was the sense of loss. You come on set, the rest of your career, you're acquiring, you're working for things, you can get in your car and go like, those 5 shots were so beautiful. It doesn't matter if you didn't have a scene or not, because you can just, these images are so powerful. And once you get into the directing, you have seen, at least for me, I have to see every cut. I see the movie completed, and I work towards that. So I try not to waste time in other things, or when I know it's not important. And then also, when you start losing time, what cuts you can pull out. And but there's a sense of loss that comes. You can vividly see the things you didn't get, almost brighter than the things that you did for a while, and you kind of reel on that a little bit. And then you get in the editing room, and your episode's 11 minutes long, and now you're going to pull out 2 really amazing scenes that that you just have to leave for nothing less than time. And then someone else, when they get it, the producer's cut, will have to condense other scenes, and now your beautiful transitions from one scene into the other are gone. And you feel it is a real sense of loss. You kind of feel the reeling. You get used to it after a while. It's still it's still always there. It's just not as loud as it was at the very beginning. But at the very beginning, that sense of loss was really crying really loud. I was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to feel this way. You just you don't know that kind of comes with it, but it makes sense.
As a director and cinematographer, DP, are you more critical of other people's work, or are you more sort of defensive, sympathetic when you see it?
I don't know. I think I let people off a lot for if it's a beautiful story. I mean, I think when it's everything at once, it's very rewarding to me when I see that, these transitions, these cuts, the acting is amazing. The photography is brilliant. It is a visceral experience. It's richer, but I think I'm always watching the story. I'm always watching, a story. I think the acting, maybe I'm probably more critical just because if I don't believe the lie, then I'm not in the story,
Sure.
But it's not, it's not, I don't sit around bashing work while I watch it. I truly sit down to enjoy, to be moved, I do know when I'm like, this is very special. And I might probably get a little more sensitive to what's happening when it's special because I'm trying to figure out technically why I feel like it's special. I might start breaking it down, but that's more of a celebratory thing, I think, than than a negative. I don't have a lot of free time, so I don't like something, I don't stick with it.
Yeah.
If
On
I'm
to the next.
not, yeah, if something's, I mean, it's not, I don't turn a movie off in 5 minutes, but I'm not going to continue watching a series if the first couple episodes or the first few episodes aren't great. I just only, it's really selfishly to gain some more time back.
So looking at your IMDb, it evolves from camera department to DP. Is that like a gateway drug, camera department, to that sort of field, or is that unusual for that to happen?
Oh, I mean, I think, listen, if you spend enough time, it's a natural transition. It's maybe not a supernatural transition. You would have had to pay attention. I mean, I actually think gaffer to director of photography is a more natural transition
Mm.
if you have really good operators and and if you are visual framing wise and you understand the cutting points of things. But I think, listen, I think you can naturally transition into the next job when you're capable of doing the one above. So it kind of I think for as far as for operating, editing was important, which starts bringing you into directing. The same thing as the director of photography. You need to know editing, you need to know the operating portion. When you can collaboratively start getting into the fine points of story, and the black and white, which I do think editing is kind of the black and white, when the shit is hitting the fan. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you can curse. It's fine.
Okay, cool. When the shit's hitting the fan and you're
Yeah.
really screwed, you go to the black and white, I mean, the sun's about to go down. You got 3 shots left. So you're like, listen, we shot a master. We don't need a reverse master. Let's just get this piece of coverage and we can blow that little gag. We'll peel right off of it. And, you start talking in the black and whites of cutting. And I think, all those positions kind of feed within one another. I mean, I think when I was starting to operate and getting into operating, it was around a time when directing was not an entry level position, but there were a lot of first time directors coming in, even in studio Hollywood. And I did some of those films and working with an English cameraman. As an operator, you just talk to the director. And when the director doesn't quite know the black and white, the cuts, the editing, the filmmaking, you're doing it for them. And I got a lot of exercise in that. I spent a lot of time in the editing room with Ann Coates, who has the Oscar for Lawrence of Arabia. She's a friend's mother, or was. She's passed, but spending a lot of time with her, talking about filmmaking, talking about the editing of the cuts, and then getting this free thing. I free exercise into cutting with somebody and helping them out, on the set. It just really gave me the bug to start wanting to direct, and I could see myself very much craving to do that, wanting a little more level of difficulty and to be a little larger part of the whole. It's one thing I don't want to do and can't do in any way, shape, or form is act, and I think I think there's servicing the atmosphere, to allow people to perform and make that lie become the truth is, just kind of become my religion, my thing.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
That's what I've always supposed to be doing. I'm very comfortable with this. Not that I'm not terrified all the time of putting them up, but I do like taking the high risk, high reward episodes, just the ones that I'm really scared that I could screw up and ruin my whole career. I don't know. I like to do that to myself, but I just love it. And then trying to create an atmosphere for them to make that lie become the truth.
So how did Walking Dead fall into your lap?
Well, I got a call from Tom Luce, and who was the UPM, and said, "Listen, we're doing this pilot and this thing. They want you to kind of come in as second unit DP and then operate on some other days. But as soon as the pilot's over, going straight into series, and we want you to be the A camera operator, And I was like, oh, well, Darabont is doing a comic book, a horror thing. This is really weird. What is it? I didn't know what The Walking Dead was. I didn't even know the comic. And they were like, oh, it's from a comic book. So I looked at it, and just really the curiosity of like the mix of the powerhouse, Gale being there and Hurd, and and then Kirkman, once you look into it, him being this master of the comic books and having such a big following, and it was really interesting. AMC and having them make Breaking Bad, it just kind of felt like something I just felt like it's something I wanted to be around. It felt like it was being built. I was really just curiously, it felt like it was being built to do something special. And immediately, getting on set, you realize that it was going to be something special. I don't think that was, everyone tried to temper our expectations once we
they didn't think that it was going to go, right?
No, well, I didn't think it was going to go. And then even when we were looking around at each other, Andy and Norman and Bernthal and Sarah and Callie's, and, we're all looking, going, whoa, the right people are here. We can do something crazy and really special and strong and emotional. And it's not about horror, and it's about survival and these big scope themes. We could all recognize it, and scene after scene, we would get super excited, and everyone would be like, well, just calm down. Like you guys, you're so cute. You just get super excited about nothing. Like, if this thing has 3 million viewers, it would be beyond an amazing success. If it gets another season, everyone should be so lucky. It was, but I think everyone could feel it. We knew it. I look back at my career, or at least my, Walking Dead career, and I go to that first season when we were all just playing in the dirt, and we didn't have fans, and we didn't have, the support of, millions and millions of viewers. Everyone just believed in it. And I think that's something that I want to take and cultivate everywhere that I go, because I think it's really powerful what you can do when you get a huge portion of people to really believe and selflessly act accordingly.
So you started with cinematography, you moved over to that in season 4, I believe. Yeah, what was that like? Was that a big jump for you? Were you nervous? How did you feel?
I'd already been shooting second units in season 3, and they were like full scenes, and it was and I was also given the directing in the same season. So that was the thing that was a little off, because everyone talked about whether do it both in the same season and just wait. And, and I said, to tell you the truth, I don't want to be the DP if you're going to take away the directing portion of it, like, let's just do it. If we're going to do it, I will do it. I want to be a larger part of the whole, but I really wanted to tell a story with this group of individuals. I think, you realize a lot of your talent and a lot of your success is directly, in direct relationship with the talent that you have around you. You can't do it alone. Nobody is sitting in the corner as a genius masterminding everything. It's a collaboratory experience, and raising the bar on each other, think tanking it out. It's an art like no other.
Right. You're kind of like the head coach, and you have your offensive, defensive coordinators with your staff, then the players, and then GM.
Very much like that. And then a military exercise that ready to round all of it, So it's about the group. It's about the environment that you create, I think is the most important thing.
And I was surprised to see the first episode you directed was The Grove, which is still regarded as like a Mount Rushmore episode of The Walking Dead. I mean, that people still talk about it, we're almost in season 11, and that's still always a top 5 episode or top 4. So that must have been a big challenge. I mean, you've kind of delved into a lot of death episodes, but how was The Grove for you specifically?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there were a lot of things to take into account. I mean, mostly the death of 2 young girls. But it was initially it's the greatest gift I've ever been given. Still to this day. I mean, Scott is such an amazing episode. 1 second. Sorry, I do not.
Oh, good. I'm vaccinated, so it's all good.
Yeah. It won't come through the computer.
Well, who knows? I'll have to see what the CDC says. They change their mind every day, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's true. True.
No more computers.
Scott gave me, the greatest gift that I've ever been given. That's a beautiful script, and then also just the belief that I'd be able to do something special with it, And obviously, Chad Coleman and Melissa, who she'd made me cry 100 times in the eyepiece when I was a camera operator with her performances. So I knew that we had, something special. I knew it was important to tell the story. And then, it was really just, Brighton and Kyla, trying to get a relationship with them. We talked about in prep, I got to spend a lot of time about, how important their deaths were to the other characters, how they represented humanity and the loss of humanity and evolution. And we really kind of broke it down. And I was really pleasantly surprised to find out that, how intelligent little girls are nowadays and like how evolved they are, that they could understand it. And I just said, listen, we're going to, it's going to be horrifying, but we're going to make it fun. And anytime after, being between cut and action, I try to make it fun. And,
right.
I still talk to both of them. They have grown up. I can't barely even recognize the little girls that I can still picture vividly. And it was lucky. It was luckily, it was very condensed. We really had time together. I stayed with Chad in a hotel, so every night we talk about the next scenes, and we really got to hone in on what it needed to be, and and how it was just equally as important that Chad witnessed the entire story along the ways, and I meant shot that, so you're always kind of clocking him at the end watching it, so he can forgive her at that table. When she slides the gun, through the puzzle pieces, and it's still, my favorite. I've got others that are coming close, favorite wise. Now that there's been a lot, but it was for a while I was worried that would be the highlight of my career.
Well,
it's going to be downhill for a while. I was like,
downhill from here.
Hope I get one that's bigger and better. Amazing story.
2 side questions I have, just as a fan. Whose idea was it? Was it Robert's idea or Scott's idea? I've heard different stories of getting like half the Wire cast basically to join the show.
Well, I think I think there were a lot of people that are fans of The Wire on The Walking Dead. A lot of everywhere, but on the show, and I think I think Scott, he really really loved the show, and I think we just kept having success. I don't know if that was the initial intention, was like, let's just grab everybody from The Wire. It did feel like that for a minute, like we were just gonna we're gonna bring one in, kill it off, and bring another person from The Wire. But
yeah,
I think
okay. Interesting. So you were talking about sort of you like taking on sort of the challenging episodes. Is that something that like the layout, like sort of a season ahead of time, and you're like, oh, I want that one, or do they approach you first?
Well, I think after The Grove, I was given more meaty emotional material just because I thought I could handle it. Moving over to Fear, now I do get the pitch, and I do, when you're the producer director, they want you to direct the 1, the 8, the 9, and the 16, because or at least 3 of those 4. You can't normally do all 4 because 8 or 9 are back to back. And I take 5 episodes a year so that I can do 2 down the rabbit hole ones, and I now normally I do beg for those. I don't demand anything, but when they're pitching them, I am the first one hearing them, so I can't. I really need to tell this story. I need this episode, and so I really try to pick, high risk, high rewards, and ones that I just think are beautiful, and I'm doing them for myself more than anything. It's not about viewerships or flashiness or anything. In fact, I choose some episodes where I'm like, it's gonna be a love and hate episode. People are either gonna love it, or they're gonna hate it. And but I just want to tell it. I want to see if I can tell these stories for myself. A lot of what I do now is to just see what I can do and what I'm made of. I've been lucky enough to get that. Coming over to Fear was with that. I didn't know if I could try to reinvent a show in a season 4, and I wanted to see if I can.
What was that like? Because it did feel like a reboot, especially bringing Morgan over and eventually leading to Kim leaving the show. So what was the biggest challenge with that?
Well, the biggest challenge was coming from The Walking Dead and being told that whatever the reinvention is going to be, it needs to look nothing like The Walking Dead, and you can't shoot it the same way, and do any of these things. Where I was like, but that's the way I shoot. So really, we wanted to reinvent it on kind of every level. On a color, on a shooting style, on everything. Season 4, we didn't move the camera. We really just I wanted to play with composition and frames and make things really important and shots, and then having to block off angle and move the actors and really orchestrate a scene. That way, it just felt like a cool exercise to do, and I knew it would be unique. And I think that composition is kind of one of the missing things in film a lot. People are just like, well, if they're in the frame, that's cool, or size of frame, all of those things matter. And so I brought that kind of into the show that way. Obviously cast turnover and things like that, that's a different kind of navigation, but I had to be prepared for anything. I didn't know if it was going to be a weird hostile environment, and it was really pleasant and really beautiful. And I've been through a lot of character deaths over the last 10 years, and I would say that Kim was better than anyone else. It's really difficult. It's really, really difficult to go through that. You go through kind of all the signs of grief and emotion. I've watched everybody go through that, the signs of death. And, sometimes they're it's hard they're angry, they're confused, they want it to end. It's tough, especially in these shows that are, they're really these family oriented shows that have been built. And she was the most professional ever, period. And just charming to be around, and acted her ass off right to the very end.
People still are holding out hope that she's out there somewhere. People claim they didn't see a body. She lit the fire. The next day we see all the charred bodies, but people are like sleuths. So do you ever pay attention to any of the fan reactions to your episodes, or do you just kind of make it and move on?
Well, no, you can't. I have an Instagram, and I put out a photo every episode and try to thank people, and you get responses. So I read them. I try not to take things too hard one way or the other. And but everyone's really pretty pleasant. I do get the people that will say bring Madison back 5 times in a row on on the Instagram. So,
they're adamant.
Yeah. There's a huge group, and she's a very important and strong character. And, I get it, and I understand why people, but that's also all of it's kind of flattering to me. I think if we can elicit strong emotions from people, that's what we're trying to do as creators. That's that's the majority of what I'm doing, is trying to create emotions and keep people attached to humanity and make people feel things. And it's I don't necessarily care what emotion I create. I would love to make everyone happy all the time, but that's not how stories work, especially in the apocalypse. So if I make a lot of people cry, sometimes that makes me feel good too. Not because I'm sadistic, but because I landed the scene, because I told the story the right way and with strength, and people are feeling, and that is, that's my biggest fear, is to not do that, to have to do it. So if I'm given a story that's, that's going to bring a little bit of sorrow, I hope I do it really well.
You absolutely do. All of your episodes are really powerful. I want to talk about In Dreams in just a second, but I also want to touch on the shift from season 5 to season 6. Obviously, season 6 is more anthology, and not anthology, but it focuses, more on, a smaller group of characters each episode. But there is kind of like a different feel to it. Was there anything like behind the scenes that sort of changed? Because season 6 just feels elevated somehow. I don't know. I mean, I love Fear. It just, season 6 is like, I don't know I can't really put my finger on it.
Well, I think you can. I mean, listen, I give it up to Andrew and Ian. Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg, our showrunner and our writers. They wanted to to tell stories in a different way. I think you try every season to reinvent a show.
Sure.
Not 100% reinvention, but that's what you want to do. And to keep it, to keep the story strong, to keep the characters strong, to keep the characters moving along in an arc. And I think, they came up with the idea, at the very end of season 5, and before then, but obviously, in that last episode, you're splitting everybody up. And I think right then marked a giant change. It marked a change in the way we're going to tell stories. It brought in the anthology, because you're going to have to go to separate places to tell everybody, and then we wanted to bring in another way to telling stories. So we just I opened up a little more movement, and we opened up color. It felt like if we were going to be anthological and go into all different locations, it's world building at that point. Every episode starts somewhere, and you wrap that whole location out, you build this world, and then you're on to the next one. That we could open up for color changes, for style changes to shoot, and we just kind of really opened up the book. We keep the same similar language that we like to tell the film in. We're still composition heavy, and we're still a slower cutting pattern, and and everything is to drive the emotions. But one episode might be an action piece racing through a building with the rats, and another one might be a kind of a sit down solo person breaking down, like the Dory episode, having to slowly kind of sell his soul out, and realizing that he's going to allow something to happen, and I think the styles could change and everything. So we went for all of it at every level.
Let's talk about In Dreams, which just came out last week. And I was touched by your Instagram post about it, talking about Karen David's performance, Lenny James. Were you excited about it, or were you more nervous?
Yeah, no, I was super excited, like immensely excited. I mean, I was nervous. That was one of those episodes, you just don't want to screw it up. You don't want to make it so confusing that people can't understand what it is. And it needs to be elegant. It needs to be able to be, to kind of be ingested by everyone in the same way. So that's a fine line, because you want to go crazy and bring it way out, and I thought we did. We pushed it kind of as far as we could.
We
did it working backwards, I mean, I know what the end was going to be. I knew what that was. So that last scene, what that is. And from then on, working backwards, you want to tell the story of these two souls meeting each other and getting an opportunity to have these mother-daughter moments, and they better be beautiful, and they better be elegant, and it better be rewarding, because that we have an apocalyptic reset at the end of the episode, and that's what it is. So it just was, it was important to do that. We looked at Jala Troutman, who the director of photography. We looked at some infrared pictures and brought an infrared camera in, and played around with some tests for those. Just, you couldn't really guarantee protecting the skin tones, and it was, seemed too risky, but we went with basically the effect of that, which is greens to pink. And I thought that it wasn't looked a little technicolor, a little acid trippy in a few scenes, but we were going for kind of something that's almost cherry blossomy. You could kind of accept it. It wasn't too much to throw you off. And create this other alter world, and then I just mined through everything that was Grace that we knew about her, the bird shit walker, all these things, and just kept slipping them, incorporating them into scenes. So it really was from her memory. Bernardo Trujillo, our production designer, once we knew about the greens, we went into the stables and I said, listen, the vision side of the stables, I want a tree and I want grass growing inside. It's got to be a jungle, so it all goes pink. We've got to stay with the theme, and and he provided like never before. I mean, always it is such a great atmosphere. I feel like on a production level, it represents what we can really do. In a 9-day quick TV schedule, where you're prepping another episode while you're shooting one, and it is really hard to kind of put out that kind of work, and everybody just nailed it, and I thought it was really, really, really beautiful. And then we're bringing in a new character, her Sahana, playing her daughter, and then it was really about Karen, being there with Karen and Sahana, and making sure that that they could go through this journey with some support, and I thought Karen just was on another level, and it was just beautiful and stunning, and really I feel lucky to be a part of those moments when you see somebody make half of the entire film crew cry, we're all standing around with each other, and they were we did the last scene. We did that, the baby scene was the last hour before our Christmas break. So it was, everyone looked around, everyone's crying, and we said Merry Christmas and went off.
Yeah, and then because of COVID, it ends up airing on Mother's Day, which
that one felt mean, but that again, we didn't know we were gonna have to push 8.
Oh sure, yeah.
Pushed over it. That was really coincidental. I know that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know.
Like that was some kind of intentional thing that because we just really want to make people suffer, but that's not true. It just
on
Mother's Day, and all of the moms that watched it had the entire day being told how much they love them before they had to cry. So
yeah. Oh my God. I don't know if you've seen, we make at Skybound, we make these react compilations where fans record themselves watching an episode, and we kind of edit them all together in a kind of cohesive way where they're like completing each other's sentences and everything. So we're releasing that episode today of them reacting to In Dreams, and it is you really got, I mean, if you want to see the emotions, it is real. I mean, grown men crying, it's crazy.
Yeah, I have seen them. Normally I laugh. It's funny. I'll bet this one I probably, but it's as a creator, I think sometimes I would, if I could have the chance to sit in the television and look back at people, it would be nice. Sure. As much as we do it and it's rewarding for ourselves, it is nice to see that that your work does affect people. And I mean, we're most of us are not doing this for the fame and and nice parties. We're out sweating and bleeding to try to create these emotions, because we feel it's important to tell these stories. And I love that Ian and Andrew didn't duck around this, that this is the truth of what happens to a child when there's radiation poisoning.
Sure.
The child does save the parent, and I don't mind I begged for this episode. This was the one that I said, like, please let me have this, do this story. I want to have this story. I want to see if I can tell this story, and I want to see if we can do it. And I knew very well that it was going to be loved or hated, and most likely nothing in between. And it when you read the script. There's not, this isn't a story that the majority of people can handle. But it felt important to tell it, and I really wanted to as a filmmaker. I wanted to dive into it.
Yeah, I think you hit a home run. I think it was great. People were, relieved about Grace actually living through it, but then of course, depressed about the baby. So it was just a whole range of emotions. And you really like teased, like I was tricked too. I was like, oh, Grace is definitely dying, literally walking into the light and then you're taken back.
You think she's dying 3 times on that, in the show.
Oh, I was like, yeah, they keep killing her. And then I was like, oh, she's fine. And then it's like, oh, now she's dying. Oh, wait, she's okay again.
Yeah.
I
didn't realize that when I first read it, but when I started shooting it, I was, I went, well, I'm going to have her stop breathing on the Vision side, because I love that just mid-sentence, she just falls over. You're like, what is happening? And but I got to show it. It was scripted, it showed on Morgan's side, and then he's trying to revive her. And then when they're saying goodbye, and I went, well, in the Vision, you don't need somebody to open a door. Like automatic door, you've got automatic doors inside your own mind in there. And when they open up, I'm like, oh, I feel like you think she's definitely walking. She's dying again, like Grace is gonna die 3 times in the episode before you find out she lives and the baby dies. But we didn't do that to be mean. I just really wanted to clock it, on all sides.
Yeah.
Give every realm of consciousness the proper justice.
What's more challenging, working in, with COVID restrictions, or having to direct that Alicia and Charlie episode, Close Your Eyes, back in season 4?
The COVID restrictions felt really brutal at the beginning, just because I realized was white knuckling through episodes, just wondering if we're going to be shut down again. Hopefully we wouldn't be the first show to get shut down. Hopefully we wouldn't mess up the rest of the industry. Everyone was looking at each other so much, and not knowing what what protocol was going to protect us 100%. So much unknown. However, once you're on set, even through the mask and everything, just creating was like the greatest diversion to all the world's problems. We were creating, and we were together, and you're living in this present second, trying to make a lie become the truth. So that was, it just feels special. So you kind of can push through, COVID and all those other things. You temporarily, it all goes away for a second, and the episode with Charlie and Alicia, a hurricane was going on the entire time. Even we were in interior in that house before we went to the flooded basement. We had Ritter fans outside with rain. We had guys smashing the outside windows all over the place, throwing things out of frame. It was the noisiest episode ever to try to do the really sensitive, acting work. And I thought we were gonna have to loop like 90% of the episode. I had literally asked production to fly me out during looping because I'm like, if I'm directing this, I'm going to redirect all of the looping. And luckily sound has gotten so advanced with the actual noise from the hurricane, we could get rid of most of it. And our sound guys picked up such amazing sound. But that was difficult just because we were, underwater, in water, flooded house. And, it was lightning delays. That episode that for like 3.5 hours one day, we were all trapped in that rotting house. It was. So I think that look, sometimes just the technical aspects of the episode, I think, are even more difficult than when you're creating during COVID. I don't care about the mask if I get to create all, and everyone feels that way. If I get to create that, or what I have to do, I would wear a metal suit or a hazmat suit all day. If that's what it takes, there's something about creation, you forget about everything.
During when COVID hit and some productions are resuming, are you talking to any other directors or producers from other productions, trying to compare notes at all?
Yeah, well, listen, every AMC production had meetings, all the producers and everything, to coordinate what they were doing, even though everyone had to take different tactics depending on how your show works and how many characters you have, and to try to build an overall protocol. Every union spoke to each other. I was on DGA email list, which had every director, and everyone would come in and ask about masks, about how their things are working, the protocols, all these things. So it was I think the business altogether, as much as we create separately, we were probably more together than ever before, and everyone, I think, really not just wanted to be responsible and figure out how to do it, but we really didn't want to. We didn't want to be the ones to mess up coming back out and working. You know, I mean, I think we all felt that we had a large responsibility to if we're going to go back to work, to do it right and to not mess this up, and and to try to keep everyone employed. I mean, it's also, you have a responsibility. Every film has 300, 400 people working on it, and once you can go back to work, we desperately didn't want to have to go backwards.
One of the things I checked off my list during quarantine was, I was like, all right, I'm going to start watching these shows I've always said I'm going to watch and I never get around to. So Dexter was one of them. And so seeing Keith Carradine join the cast was a delight, because I'm just fresh off Dexter. Agent Lundy, now all apocalyptic up. What's that like working with him? He was just in the most recent episode that airs tonight.
He's one of the greatest human beings. I mean, he's old school. He's an actor's actor. He's a man's man. He's a proper cowboy. So we kind of shoot a Western on this show. So just the sweetest human being. He's a great man. He came in and has charmed everyone's socks off. And there's not a person that doesn't love him. He's so supportive. I think for Jenna, having a new scene partner, that's always a big deal. You never know. And they are fantastic together.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic together. And I think he feels like John Dory's dad.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? I'm allowed to say that now.
Yeah. It is aired, so we can say it. Yeah.
He feels like Dory's dad, I mean, like he feels like the original John Dory. So, that
was a great reveal.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes like as you're planning like the death of John Dory, that you're like, okay, we're planning the death, but we're bringing his father in a few episodes later?
What's the question?
As in, like, when you're mapping out the season, you're like, okay, so in this episode, John Dory's going to die, but a few episodes later, we're going to bring in his father. Like, is that just all part of like the general story arc, like as you're writing it all out? Or I guess that would be the showrunners or writers.
Yes, it is. I mean, that's part of it. I think, on my end, you want to start thinking about how you're going to deliver the emotions from the death, and and in June's arc, like June's arc and how you're going to do it. That you see that we made her cold, at the end of 8, even into 9, when she's burying the body, and that was an intentional holdback to let her harden and do it, so we could let her read that letter and let her experience John's death through her father. Through his father.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it does play a lot into the people that that are affected by his death, and her arc. So June's arc is definitely affected by the layout of bringing other people in. And
gotcha.
When you're do it, and when you're going to save, and it was, I think it's beautiful to allow June to save that for a minute, to hold on to that grief, and you didn't need it in that moment. Everyone was grieving. I don't even know how people really saw his death anyway. Through the tears in their eyes, they might.
That was a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. Like I have to cover the show and watch the episodes a million times, but that one was tough. I was like, man, I love Garrett, but he's doing Army of the Dead and a bunch of other stuff, so I'm happy for him. But
listen,
that was a tough one.
Garrett, and when we miss him, but that experience of doing that with him, and he's so on point, and have Lenny in there, it's special. Those performances in there are special. I love, Adam Sushitsky was my director of photography on that, and he's one of my dear friends now after getting Create, and we really put everything we possibly could into that, and I think it's a very beautiful and elegant, devastating as always episode. It's devastating. It's hard to keep out of our vocabulary.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up in just a second. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up in just a second. In 609, I believe, when Ginny does the lineup, is that like just a direct homage to the Negan thing, or is that just something that villains in the apocalypse do to each other? Because it's obviously it was very 701, 616 of Walking Dead.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that. I mean, I was there for the Negan.
Yeah.
I didn't do that intentionally. It wasn't a let's make an homage to it. I think it just, you're going to line people up and maybe shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
Get them on their knees anyway. They can't run and can't scramble. So it's like just didn't think of another better way to do it other than the way that it would be natural and truthful to lining people up. So that scene was meant to have about 40-50 other people in it and be this mega gun battle fight, but COVID restrictions, we had about 7 stunt guys out there that I kept repeating and putting different things on, shooting guns out of frame everywhere. I used every possible trick, we'll shoot the lantern and light the ground on fire. We'll shoot the tire out here. We'll have ground hits here. We'll just one of everything I could to avoid, the audience seeing that we didn't have enough people, that should have been, a 30-on-20 gun battle, or, where the first shot, I mean, if I could have done it that way, the first shot, 20 people would have died,
Yeah.
I would have had them surrounded, and it would have been just one mass pull after the first gunshot. Everyone would have fired, 20 people would have died, and the remainder people alive would have had this gun battle. And, it's like, I still want to do that at some point in time, but we didn't have it. So we just used every little trick we possibly could to shoot around it, and putting them on the knees. It's like, I'm not going to ever try to outdo things that I was a part of on the other.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's too weird.
Yeah.
But I did read that some people thought that was an homage to Negan. And,
I think people just have like PTSD still from the lineup from the other. So anytime someone's on their knees, they're like, oh my God.
Anytime they see anyone on the ground, yeah. For the rest, any other movie, anything, it was brutal.
Yeah. I do appreciate your love for practical effects. When you see like behind the scenes of like Avengers Endgame, which I very much enjoy, but you see behind the scenes, everything's a green screen, everyone's in spandex, and you're just like, how can they really put themselves in the scene? I mean, they do a good job, but it's still like, I love that Walking Dead is still so real, so the actors can really just kind of feel what's in front of them.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, the zombies don't exist. Walkers aren't real. So
what?
So I think everything else has to be, and I think, I think in the environment, if it's half method, if the sweat's real, and, the gravel underneath your knees is real, it puts us all in that place. And I think, again, it's the atmosphere, that I think you want to create for performances. And, luckily we have amazing stunt coordinators and on both shows. And, I mean, Jack and James on Fear, they give me these amazing set pieces that are as good as I could ever expect. And I know everyone is 100% safe. So we kind of just try to, go for it.
Yeah. Well, Michael, that's an hour. You have been so awesome. I have a million other questions for you, so hopefully we can talk in the future. But thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy guy, and have a good weekend, man.
Thank you for thinking of me. And
absolutely, of course.
Talk to you anytime. Thanks,
see you, man.
All right. Yeah, bye.
All right, and that was my interview with Michael Satrazemis. I hope you guys got a lot out of that, especially those who are interested in film and getting into the industry. And even if you're not, he has such an amazing background in stories and history. I will definitely have him back in the future. Next week, we have another fantastic guest. Make sure you're following us at The Walking Dead on Twitter, because that is where we will reveal who that guest will be. It's very exciting, and I cannot wait. But anyway, until then, please stay safe, get vaccinated if you can, and as always, happy birthday to Nate.